Well, howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to revisit our 10 gig networking setup, show you how I've got it all configured, and give you an idea of the kind of speeds you might be seeing on your 10 gig network if you set it up the way I did. I hope that came out right. Anyway, enough babbling, Joe. Let's get the video started right now. Alright, so first things first. So I'm going to show you my drive configuration on my workstation. So my C drive over here is an SSD. It's my boot drive. Then I have another 1 terabyte SSD drive here. I believe it's a SanDisk 1 terabyte. This is a Seagate 256 gig, or I'm sorry, a Samsung 256 gig SSD, the boot drive. And then I have an old reliable 1 terabyte spinning Rust drive. So let's give you an idea of my transfer speeds between different drives. So out on my spinning drive, I have some videos that have been ripped natively from Blu-ray and DVD. So I've got The Incredibles over there. So what I'm going to do is copy this to my 1 terabyte. It's where I do my video editing, and show you the speed we're getting. So we'll just right click here, we'll do a copy and come to our SSD store, go to the scratch drive, to the test folder, and I'm going to paste it here. And so you'll see we're getting consistently about 200 megabytes per second disk transfer speed. Now, what is limiting our transfer speeds? Well, frankly, it's the 1 terabyte spinning Rust drive. But it will maintain this speed throughout the entire copy. Watch it make a liar out of me. And this is what you need to consider if you're considering doing 10 gig networking. You know, you're limited by the speed of your slowest spinning Rust drive, because that's the rate at which you're going to get the maximum rate you're going to get your data out of, if that makes sense. So you notice it dropped just a little. So if all you have are spinning Rust hard drives, 7200 RPM serial ATA3 drives, that's probably the best you're going to see is about 200 megabytes per second. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I think that is about the limit of spinning hard drives. It could be a little bit faster, a little bit slower perhaps. Yours will vary. Now, SSD to SSD, you're going to see 400 to 500 megabyte transfer speeds between SSDs. So this will be your benchmark. So if you have an array of drives, or if you just have a couple of drives in a RAID 1 array, say, on your Windows server or your whatever server, you're going to be limited to the speed of the fastest drive, I believe, or the slowest drive in that array. Now, if you start combining drives and putting them into striping arrays like RAID 10 and that kind of thing, you will see a speed increase because you're combining the speed of multiple drives. You're able to read the data off of multiple drives at one time or write to them. So you will see some speed increases. If you're using cache drives, like FreeNAS caches a lot of the data, puts it, I forget what they call it, a queue or a cache or whatever. Or if you're using, say, a Synology with SSD cache drives in there, you'll see a bump in that speed. But for normal folks like you and me, these are the kind of speeds you're going to see with spinning Rust. So now I've copied that file over to the D drive, which is an SSD drive. So I have a bunch of shared storage. I have my Synology DS918 Plus, which is capped at 1 gigabit because it has a 1 gigabit network adapter in there. I have the Flash Station 1018 on loan from Sasha. It has a 10 gig network card in there. It's hooked up. And it has SSD drives in there, some old 256 gig SSD drives. Then I have my Dell R710 hypervisor server, number 1, that you've been seeing me do all this work on. And it has 6 spinning hard drives in there. They're all 7200 RPM. They're all serial ATA3 drives. There's a combination of 4 terabyte, 3 terabyte, and 2 terabyte drives in there. And they are in a drive vendor drive pool. We won't call it an array. Some of the folders on that drive pool are duplicated, so it's like having RAID 1. I'll be copying to all three of these devices. Now, I'm not including Unraid on here because I don't have Unraid up and running, and I don't have the 10 gig networking configured in Unraid right now, so I didn't figure it would be a fair test. So what I want to do is I'm on my SSD store on my local hard drive, so I want to go to that test folder, and I want to copy from my SSD drive. We're going to copy to the Synology NAS. So I'm going to go ahead and choose copy. And then I have a drive letter mapped, or do I? No, I don't. So I'm going to go up here to MCS NAS. And I do have a folder under there called Media. And then go to Video. And then I have a test folder under there. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that file over to the Synology DS918. So we start out pretty good. 112 megabytes per second, so gigabit speed. Now I'm going from my computer over a 10 gig fiber connection to my to my UniFi 10 gig switch, and then there's a crossover, a 1 gig crossover to my 24 port 1 gig switch, and then all my servers are connected via cable. I forget the name of the cable. Oh, a DAC cable, direct attached copper. Alright, so as we enter the home stretch, keep in mind that Synology NAS is also running a Windows Server 2019 virtual machine. It's my Active Directory domain controller. I just found it was easier. I hardly ever change anything on that Synology NAS, so it was a good idea to keep my Active Directory domain controller on there as opposed to running another machine. So there you saw my speeds were about, 120 megabytes per second, so gigabit speed. Now I want to do the same thing, but I want to copy that over to my Dell. So I've got my Dell 1 hypervisor right here. This is the one that's running DriveBender and 6 hard drives in a drive pool. And I've already done this test before, so I'm going to get rid of... Oh, I can leave that one. That's a good file. It's a test file I was using. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and then paste it here. And we'll see what kind of drive transfer speeds we get. So we're starting out pretty high, 300 megabytes per second. Now this server has a 10 gig networking connection in it. My workstation has a 10 gig network connection in it. The drives are all spinning Rust. They're in a DriveBender drive pool. They're all serial ATA3 drives. They're not SAS drives or anything like that. There is no caching. Well, I don't know that DriveBender is not caching. All I can tell you is this is the transfer speed I get when copying from my local SSD over to shared media, and you'll see now it's dropping down. It's going to come back up. So there was a little hitch in the get along there. But I get really good transfer speeds to that DriveBender drive array. And most of the data I write to this DriveBender array, if all of you are afraid it's sensitive data or critical data, it's mainly where I store my video, music, and photos for the family. I don't store any mission critical files on here. But the photos and the music and stuff that's hard to rip, I have duplicates of that set up on DriveBender. So it's more or less protected, and I do backups. So there you go, transferring from a local SSD to my DriveBender drive array over on my Dell R710. Pretty speedy indeed. So now let's connect up to the Synology Flash Station, which I have logically named FS-1018, and I have created an SMB test folder over here. I'm going to get rid of this file. As you can see, I've done this before. There we go. Let's see if I can empty the recycle bin. Yeah, let me do that too. Delete out the recycle bin. I don't want there to be any funny business. So anyway, I digress. So this is a 10 gig connection to this FS1018. And then these are a bunch of 256 gig SSD drives that are set up in a RAID F1, which is a proprietary RAID for Synology that they recommend for SSD drives. So now we're going to go ahead and paste that file there. Keep in mind, to my Dell hypervisor with running DriveBender, we're getting 300 megabytes per second. So let's go ahead and paste this. And so you'll see we're starting out about 460, 470 megabytes per second. So it's what, 170 megabytes faster than it was copying to spinning Rust. We'll just let this run. So a file copy that would normally take me about 3 minutes at gigabit speed is going to take, what, a minute at 500 megabytes per second, almost 500 megabytes per second. And this is from SSD to SSD pool over a fiber connection, so there should be nothing standing in the way. But all told, you gotta admit, wouldn't you be happy with these transfer speeds? I know I am. It works really well. So I don't know what kind of magic DriveBender is doing in the background, because you saw when I copied from a local SSD to my spinning Rust, I wasn't getting those kind of transfer speeds. It was right around the 220 megabyte per second mark. So DriveBender must be doing something, striping of the data or something across multiple drives. But whatever it's doing, it works really well. And I've been using DriveBender for years. I know I keep DriveBender. Take a drink every time I say DriveBender, right? But there's a reason I go on about it, because for my purposes, it works great. And you can see our drive speeds are pretty darn good. You can imagine what it would be if I had all SSDs in that Dell server. It'd be probably pretty damn quick, wouldn't it? Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this program written by Aja Video Systems, and it's to test the kind of throughput you'll get to see if you can actually record high-def video. Now, we're going to start this out at 1080p high-def video on the resolution. It's going to be a 1 gigabit test file, 10-bit YUV. We're going to test first our internal SSD drive that we store our video to, and we're going to let the test run continuously until I hit the stop button. So let's go ahead and click on Start. So these are the local drive speeds I'm getting with my SanDisk, 1 terabyte SanDisk internal. Reading and writing. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. So now I'm going to switch the target disk over to the, let's go to Unky Joe's Playhouse. This is on the Synology DS918 Plus. So let's see what kind of read and write speeds we get over there. So we're writing at 100 megabytes per second. We're reading at about 111. And we'll let this run a couple of passes just so you can get an idea. There goes another one. And this, on the DS918, my drives are set up in an SHR1 array. There's a combination of, I don't know if I have a 6 terabyte drive in there or not. I don't know what the combination of drives is, but it's not important. So you can see consistently we're getting reads and writes at around 100 megabytes per second. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that test. Now let's switch over to the Dell, which is Unky Joe's Unky Joe's Playhouse doesn't hold the Dell. Media Pool M, that's on the Dell. And let's see what kind of speed we get over there. Boy, it's just all over the place on the write speeds, isn't it? Read speeds are excellent, you know, about 320 megabytes per second, but the write speeds, Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. But still, it's better than to the Synology NAS. So let me play around. Let me see what happens when I change the test file. Yeah, when I slim down the size of the test file, well, it's still kind of all over the place. That's all right. We're getting pretty. It gives you a good idea of the kind of speeds we're getting to that drive bender drive pool. Now let's put that back to 1 gigabit, so we're comparing apples to apples. And let's go over to SMB test. This is the Synology RAID F1 on the on the FS 1018. So everything's set to the way it was on the other. Go ahead and click on Start. Now, according to this, I'm getting 10 gigabit. Pretty damn close to it. But again, all those speeds are more than acceptable to me. And we'll go ahead and stop it there. Alright, just for shits and giggles, we're going to set it to 4K red footage. The test file is 4 gigabyte. Let's set it to, I don't know. I don't even know what these settings are for. Aja Raw, Cineform. Oh, these are the codecs. See, I don't know what red uses. ProRes, there's red. ProRes 444. I don't know what code. Let's just do ProRes. I don't know. 444. All right, we'll just do that. I'm just kind of throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. So we'll do a red 4K red 4 gig file, ProRes 444. And let's copy it to our internal SSD. And I don't know how much of an effect this has on read and write speeds, but here you go, writing to our local SSD drive. So our write speeds are nearly 400 megabytes per second. Our read speeds are just about the same thing. I'm only going to do one pass on that. And there you go. So let's try it on our let's try it on the Synology NAS, the DS918 Plus, which is Drive U. So let's start, see what happens. So our write speeds are, no, it's about the same. We're going to get almost 100 megabytes per second on write speeds. Yeah. That larger file we should as well. It should happen sooner. And my video may be stuttering a bit due to this, because I'm recording in the same machine I'm copying or doing the transfer from. Now I expect my read speeds will be right at 100 megabytes too. We shall see. Yeah. Actually, it'll probably get up to 111. Maybe not. Nope. It's kind of fun. I like this Aja test. It's just kind of fun. I don't know that I'd depend on it to be a reliable indicator of drive speed, but I saw a fellow YouTuber using it and thought I'd give it a try. So there you go, one pass, 100 by 100. Now let's do this over to the Dell with Drive Bender running. Same settings. Click on Start, and you'll see again our write speeds are kind of all over the place, but they're getting close to, you know, almost 200. Well, no, 150 megabytes per second. Still not bad, huh? It's better than gigabit speed. So I could, in theory, edit video off of that driver or drive pool as well. I'm hoping our read speeds will be a bit faster. Alright, yeah, and our read speeds are quite a bit faster, so it reads really fast off of that drive pool, which is good because it does host most of my video. Alright, so there is a single pass. Now let's do the same thing on our Flash Station 1018. Same settings. Click on Start. And you see we take a little bit of a hit on the write speed. But that's probably a better indication of the speeds we would be seeing. I just can't get over that. It's pretty darn fast. Let that run a couple of times. But there you go. There's the kind of speeds I'm getting on my 10 gig network. Now, no test would be complete without Crystal Dismark specs. So, beginning with the upper left-hand corner, this is my internal SSD. So you're seeing we're getting really good transfer speeds. That's on the SanDisk Ultra 2 1 terabyte SSD drive. You can see my sequential reads and writes, even the 4K reads and writes are really, really good. The next one in the middle is on my Synology DS918. Again, that is limited to a 1 gigabit Ethernet adapter, gigabit Ethernet adapter. And so you're going to see slower speeds. But the 4K transfers are comparable with the internal SSD, except when it comes to writing. And then you'll see the third item on the top, which is my drive bender array. I'm getting phenomenal read speeds and pretty darn good write speeds. They're pretty close to what I get with the Synology FS 2018 down on the bottom, or 1018 down on the bottom. Where it suffers, though, is 4K reads and writes. It cannot, it doesn't even come close to the, I'm talking about the 4K Q321T1 reads and writes. They're way off from what the DS918 internal SSD and the FlashStation 1018 are. Sequential reads and writes are pretty good, though. And then the 4K, down on the bottom there, you'll see those are abysmal when compared to both the SSD, to the Synology DS918 Plus and the Synology FS 1018. The point being, I'm happy with these results, and I think for all intents and purposes you would be too, but I just want to show you that 10 gigabit does not equal 10 gigabit. So item number one to take away from this is, don't let anybody tell you that a Synology NAS running Synology Hybrid RAID has slow transfer speeds, or that by those drives being in an array, it slows down the write speeds or the read speeds. You can see for yourself that's clearly not true. And then there's Drive Bender. I've got a Dell R710 loaded with a ton of memory, 6 different sized hard drives. 2 of them are 4 terabytes, a 3 terabyte, and the rest are 2 terabytes. They're all Serial ATA3, and they're all running in a Drive Bender drive pool, and you saw the speeds I was getting. That's nothing to sniff at. It's, you know, I would be happy with just those speeds. And then we upped the ante a little bit more, and the Synology Flash Station with a 10 gig networking adapter running Synology F1 RAID, or RAID F1 as they call it. You saw the phenomenal write and read speeds I was getting. So yeah, there's how my shared storage is set up. Now you can kind of see the method to my madness, why I wanted to kind of fall back onto that Dell and use it as a storage device, as well as a device to run Hyper-V machines on, or virtualization on. Plus I have the added benefit of I can run some Windows applications on there as well. And Synology is real good at doing Synology, and I'm really quite impressed by the Flash Station. I want to get a couple more 1 terabyte SSD drives in here, see if that makes any difference on the speed, and see how that does, adding those to that existing RAID F1 array, because I do have room, I think, for 4 more drives in there, or 6 more drives. I don't know. I'll find out and let you know. But I just wanted you to see the results I'm getting in my lab network and in my production network, speed-wise, file transfer-wise. And plus I have all the benefit of all this shared storage. So I've got nearly 20 some odd terabytes, maybe 30 terabytes of shared storage if you include Unraid in there. And Unraid, we just need to pop a 10 gig NIC in there and get it set up. And we should be seeing those speeds pretty close to what we're seeing on Drivebender is what I'm thinking. So there you go. So as you can see, my 10 gig journey has been slow and tedious, and I have tested, and I've tested again, and tested again, and tested again, and none of these results matter because your situation is going to be different depending on what drives you use, what hardware you use, hell, what transceivers you use to convert from direct attached copper or SFP plus to fiber or to direct attached copper. All those can affect your speed in minimal amounts. Now, I haven't done anything special with my NIC settings. I haven't enabled jumbo frames. None of that. I haven't loaded any special drivers. These are the drivers that came with Windows 10, the drivers that came with Windows Server 2019. I haven't updated the firmware on any of these NIC cards or anything. All of that I'm sure would improve the speed. But right at this point, I'm just happy it's running, and I'm going to leave well enough alone because I think I'll only see a minuscule increase in speed by adjusting those. What I might be better suited to do is to buy all new 10 gig network cards as their price continues to come down, and then see if there isn't some increase in the speed. But for now, the Mellanox cards are doing just fine, as you can see. So sorry for the rambly nature of this video. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Quite a few of you had asked how my 10 gig networking was going, and as I learned new stuff, I wanted to show it to you, so there you go. So I certainly hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below. Leave your comments down in the comments section. If you're inclined to donate, we take PayPal, we take Patreon. We also mirror all of our content, gets automatically mirrored over at LBRY.TV, LBRY.TV. The link to my site is down in the notes section, also in the About section under my homepage here on YouTube. So take a look, go over. If you're more inclined to watch them over on LBRY, do so. Feel free. And share this channel with others you think that might like it. Anyway, come back and see us again. And don't forget that we will see you on the other side.